We have some answers, but more questions when it comes to the ongoing run of the second season of Silo. The series has managed to give some attention to the larger things at play, with a mention here and there about certain things, but there are no clear answers and no clear responses yet, and we're almost enjoying the fact that there's no straight answer. The previous season managed to answer a major question, but stumbled into a world full of questions that were answered in a cryptic manner in the first episode of the second season. Graham Yost has been pretty vocal about the series, and right now, he's dropped another major detail regarding the series ending. Let's take a look at what he says regarding the ending of the season, and what it could mean for the future of the series. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Another cliffhanger, a different ending from the books. As we're halfway through the second season and just trying to grasp the various elements and plot details shown to us in the past few episodes of the second season, series creator Graham Yost has revealed a major update regarding the show. While it's not surprising that the creators kept the audience hooked with interesting updates, Yost's statements continue with the ongoing arc of the series. The first season had an interesting take on the source material, with some interesting changes, but the second season seems to be straying further ahead. It almost feels like the series is taking its own path now, but it only gets more interesting. When Graham Yost introduced the series, he clarified that there's a clear chance of taking on Hugh Howey's trilogy of books completely. The creator behind previous shows like Justified had an amazing cast of actors and an intriguing plot that caught the audience right away. Now, the first season gave us an ending that landed well, considering that the twist depended a lot on it. Even though the fans who have read the books might have had an idea about the twist, it did land quite well, considering that executing that twist came out quite well. With the second season halfway through, we have a lot of questions and a lot of answers yet to be explored in the upcoming episodes. The question that really stands out is about the ending of the season. Will it be equivalent to the ending of the first season, or will it be something stronger? Well, it seems Yost himself has an interesting answer to that question. When asked about the ending in a recent interview, he stated, "In a slightly different way, but yes, to a degree. There's a big surprise at the end of the season, and that's all I'll say." Before we jump into what this means, we should explore the context of this statement a little bit more. The first season had only managed to cover about half of the first book in Hugh Howey's trilogy, and it's been stated that the second season will wrap up with the second half. Now, the question Yost was asked in the interview was if the ending of the book is what we will get to see at the finale of this season. So based on Yost's response, we can be sure that even the readers might have some interesting developments to look out for this time around. So if you've read the book and think that the ending could be predictable, Yost might have a surprise for you. But what could the different ending be about? Revealing a new character from the books? Jumping into the second or third book directly? Or is it taking an original plot that has been built till now? Before we jump into this, let's take a look at some of the elements that have been particularly interesting in terms of the differences in the plot of the series from the books. Silo Season 2, the series versus the books. Graham Yost has had previous experience adapting from books with the Justified series based on the Elmore Leonard books, and that does mean that he knows his way around making something that's a treat for the fans while giving a respectable amount of value to the source material. Justified managed to garner 8 Emmy nominations and a Peabody Award, so the proof is right there. Referring to Peter Jackson's take on the Lord of the Rings books, Yost stated, "You have to love the underlying material. New Line took such a dangerous risk saying yes to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, but I think it was clear from the first meeting that he loved the books, and it was clear to the fans that he loved the books. It would be pointless to do it if you don't." And there we go. That probably kicked in the entire idea of making elements into the series that are entirely original, but do provide the necessary plot development for the series arc. If you've seen our video about the differences between the book, you know that there are major driving forces in the first season that are entirely original to the series, and hardly mentioned in the books. In Graham's own words, in the book, George, Juliet's boyfriend, is barely mentioned. It's just one line. It was like, let's use that as an engine for the season. What happened to George? And Yost did do this because viewers would notice that George's arc was one of the most essential parts of the series. What happened to him played a consequential arc to Juliet, and became her driving force to seek the answers that would make her the protagonist. Another major development was the syndrome, something that was entirely original to the series, and it also managed to give an interesting plot development that might be a big consequence later in the series. The first season manages to establish this plot in a rather good manner, including making one of the major characters a victim of this disease. But if you ask why this disease is present in the series, Yost has an amazing response for you. Human beings weren't meant to live like this. Talking about that with Hugh, we came up with something called the syndrome. It's a neurological response to the pressure of living in these conditions. Developments like these clearly indicate that the series is taking steps toward establishing the world with much more detail than the fans of the books might have expected. Each of these details is important in the arc, and will add significantly to the plot. However, there are other interesting steps that the series has taken that somewhat go against the books. Take Lucas' case, for example. Lucas became the least important character in the first season, even though he had some sort of romantic development with Julie, which flushed out quickly. The books had a different narrative for him. In the book, Lucas manages to become Bernard's shadow, and later on he plays a major role in helping Juliet out. But the series cuts that path off entirely, considering Lucas managed to be quite helpful when Juliet needed to see what was inside the hard drive. Unfortunately, things only got worse for him when he's sent to the mines as punishment for interacting with Juliet in the presence of a relic. But Season 2 seems to be taking the path of the books, because Lucas is back in action again, and this time Bernard is using him to get answers from the hard drive. Will Bernard finally have the candidate for his shadow with Lucas after he managed to retrieve every single bit of information needed from the hard drive? That's a question only the future episodes can answer. Apart from that, we're still dealing with Solo and Juliet's narrative in Silo 17, as they explore the various aspects but hardly touch on what happened there, keeping us in the dark. Even Solo couldn't be trusted because it has become quite clear that he had some serious developments while living in isolation that entirely changed his behavior, and has an alternate history compared to the books. So yeah, Solo might not be the Solo we know. That's something that's somewhat hinted at based on the events of last week's episode. So far, many things are quite different from the books, and it only seems to go further away with each passing episode. Let's take a look at the possible endings that Graham Yost might be hinting at. What could be the possible ending? One of the primary things about this series is the numerous questions it puts out for the audience, making us wonder about the explanation for some of the most essential moments. But that's exactly what Yost was thinking while making this series. According to him, there was a tagline when one of the new books came out: "If the lies don't kill you, the truth will." It's like, there you go. That's the kind of show I want to work on. It's fun just to work in that world. If we follow the original storyline from the books, then the series ends in a circumstance where Juliet manages to get back to her silo. Billings successfully finds Bernard responsible for the various events that led to the present state of the silo, and holding back information along with the death of Meadows. Eventually, Juliet becomes the mayor. But the series probably won't take this obvious turn, and we might get something where Bernard manages to survive, with the possibility of him being involved in this ordeal on a larger scale. Tim Robbins will probably return to the upcoming season this way, considering Apple TV Plus has announced the series has been extended to 2 more seasons. So there's a chance that they'll deal with this arc in a manner that will immediately push us ahead into the books or stray further away from them. The second season opened with a look at the history of the events inside Silo 17, giving us an idea of what might have happened inside that silo. But these things were actually explored with a lot more clarity in the second book, and since Yost has stated, there was stuff Howie did in a later section of the second book that we went, let's use that here, but it still ends up in sort of the same place and has the same basic moves. There's a chance that we might get to see Solo's arc being dealt with in an entire episode soon, thus giving us something interesting about Solo that might not be coming from the books. This way, the series might wrap up in a fashion that might involve Solo's involvement in a manner that we might not expect. Even though there are some obvious choices in hand for a character like that, we can only expect Yost and his writers to deal with it differently, because Solo does hold some value to the fans of the books. Another major possibility is the chance that the series will take a different route regarding the larger scale of things in the series. Maybe the silos are settlements on different planets, something that has been one of the most talked about fan theories ever since the series started. Just remember something that Yost stated: the good questions are when you're leaning forward, literally. When you find yourself looking, going, what? Wait. The bad ones are, what's going on? I'm not clear what's going on. Gotta say, this guy is as mysterious as people who are controlling the silos. Hey! Marvelous verdict. With 2 more seasons already added to the show, we can expect to see more plot development, a larger look into the world, and more characters chiming in soon. What I'm most excited about is to do with the actors who will be taking on these roles that will deal with the larger scales of things associated with the silos. Maybe Yost is just referencing that one of these characters will pop up at the end of this season, and we'll be shocked to see a big name appearing in that role. After all, it would be the perfect opportunity for him to bring on actors from Justified to this series. Who wouldn't want to see Walton Goggins take on another interesting post-apocalyptic arc that shares many similarities with his work in Fallout? If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.